was standing at the altar, holding my bouquet, when I heard it. Not a shout, not even a laugh, a whisper. "She definitely married for money." I smiled, because in less than 10 minutes, every single person in that room was going to realize just how wrong they were. If you've ever been underestimated, judged by people who never bothered to learn your story, or quietly disrespected while you kept your head down, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready, because this is one of the most emotionally satisfying revenge stories you'll hear today. The wedding venue looked like something out of a magazine. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, soft violin music floating through the air. It was beautiful, and yet I felt smaller than I ever had in my life. As I walked down the aisle, I could feel the eyes on me. Not admiration, not joy, assessment, like I was a transaction being reviewed. My future mother-in-law sat in the front row, her lips pressed into a tight smile that never quite reached her eyes. Daniel's cousins leaned toward each other, whispering behind manicured hands. One of his aunts openly looked me up and down, her gaze lingering on my dress like she was calculating its price. I knew exactly what they were thinking. Gold digger. The word clung to me like static electricity. I could almost hear it buzzing in the air. I kept my posture straight, my smile calm. Inside, my chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped a band around my ribs and pulled. Because what hurt wasn't just the insult, it was how confident they were in it. The part of the story they never knew. 5 years earlier, Daniel didn't have money. He didn't even have stability. He had an idea, a stubborn streak, and a level of exhaustion that settles into your bones. We met when his life was falling apart, and mine was steady. Not glamorous, just earned. He was crashing on friends' couches, living off instant noodles, trying to convince investors he was worth a risk. Most of them smiled politely and said no. His family was worse. "Get a real job. You're embarrassing yourself. This isn't who we are." I watched those words sink into him like stones. At night, when he thought I was asleep, I'd hear him pacing, mumbling titch lines, second-guessing himself. Sometimes he'd stop mid-sentence and just go quiet. I'd sit up and say, "Try again." He always did. When his savings ran out, I paid the bills. When his laptop broke, I replaced it. When he needed startup capital, I didn't hesitate. I transferred the money without ceremony. No contracts, no applause, no conditions. I believed in him. The company took off faster than anyone expected. Suddenly, Daniel wasn't a disappointment. He was a success story. And I became invisible. At first, the comments were subtle. "You're so lucky. He really takes care of you. You must feel proud." They never asked what I did, never asked what I'd sacrificed. At family dinners, conversations stopped when I entered the room. My opinions were acknowledged with polite nods and immediately ignored. When money came up, eyes flicked toward me like I was something that had been purchased. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself love was bigger than ego. But every dismissive smile chipped away at me, especially Daniel's mother. She had a talent for insults disguised as concern. "Have you thought about what you'll do if something happens to Daniel? Do you worry about being dependent? Prenups are just practical, you know." I smiled every time, and every time I swallowed something bitter. The night before the wedding, I overheard a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. 2 of Daniel's relatives were standing near the bar. "She played the long game," one of them said. "Smart," the other replied. "Locked him down before he realized he could do better." I stood there, bouquet in hand, my heart pounding so hard I thought they'd hear it. Something shifted inside me. Not anger, clarity. I realized I had spent years protecting people who had never once protected me, and I was done. The plan. Earlier that week, the wedding planner had asked if I wanted to give a toast. I'd said yes without hesitation. Daniel didn't ask what I planned to say. He trusted me, and I trusted the truth. The reception was in full swing when the DJ announced speeches. Glasses clinked, phones came out. Daniel spoke first, gracious, humble, thankful. He thanked his parents for always believing in him. I noticed his mother straighten in her seat. Then he looked at me. "And finally," he said, voice soft, "the woman who stood by me when no one else did." Applause followed. I stood. The room quieted. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. I know most of you see Daniel as a success story, and you're not wrong. Nods, smiles. But I met him before the success, before the money, before anyone believed he'd make it. The air shifted. I was there when his ideas were rejected, when his confidence cracked, when quitting felt easier than continuing. I paused. I invested in him. Confusion rippled through the room. "Not emotionally," I said calmly. "Financially." Silence. The initial funding that launched his company came from me. Someone gasped. I didn't rush. I didn't smile. I never mentioned it because I didn't think I needed to. My eyes met her mother's. But I've heard the assumptions, the jokes, the labels. You could feel the tension snap tight. "So let me be clear," I said. "I didn't marry for money. I helped build it." I raised my glass. "And I'm proud of what we built together." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then applause erupted. Daniel's eyes were wet. His mother looked like she'd been slapped. 3 weeks later, Daniel came home pale. His parents had tried to sue. They claimed entitlement, ownership, influence. They assumed Daniel was vulnerable. They assumed I was irrelevant. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that the money I invested years ago had been structured, quietly, legally. I owned part of the company. When the lawsuit landed, it didn't touch Daniel. It hit me, and it died there. The judge dismissed their claims in minutes. Their reputation never recovered. That day taught me something important. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need cruelty to feel powerful. Sometimes the truth spoken calmly is the most devastating form of justice. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button, subscribe for more real-life karma stories, and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? Because the quiet ones, they usually have the strongest receipts.